Do you see this mirror? This is one of those jams that like you put right in the back of your door. Nothing fancy. It was $6 at Lowe's, and I am going to beautify it. Get started. So I'm starting with my plywood and my mirror down, and I'm going to get my measurements. So I know that 4.5 inches on this side and 4.5 inches on this side is going to be for my half rounds, and I'm not taking into account this plastic piece because that's going to disappear. So I'm just taking my 4.5, my 4.5, and the size of the mirror, and I'm adding all those together to get my how wide I need it, and then I'm cutting that in half. So for me, it is 10.25 inches. That's my middle point. And the reason why that's important is because I need to know what the middle point is for my router, because I'm about to use that to cut this. Okay, so what we're doing now is the big guns for this one because I can't do it by myself. But we are going to rip this at 20.5. That is the measurement. Okay, so now that I have cut the width, I am going to, so I cut this to the width that it needs to be, but now I'm going to need to round the sides, and then I'll be able to measure out all of my half rounds on each side, and then I will be doing a plunge cut around to cut out a hole for the mirror to peek out of the inside. Okay, so now I have, since I measured my center point, and now I've just drilled in that center point, and now I have my router all lined up to make sure that it's at the very edge of that. Okay, so I have added a piece of wood underneath here just in case, so that when I'm done routing, will fall and it could break your bit, and so we don't want that. So I put a piece of board under here to catch it, and then I've just clamped both sides there to make my board secure. Okay, so now that I have completely cut this edge, I'm gonna flip it around and do the exact same thing to the other side. Okay, so here's the deal. I already measured up there. I've got all the measuring points up there, so I'm just doing the same thing I did over here. But again, to find the same point that you need, so I've got 10.25 here to the middle and 10.25 here to the middle. And now I know that this is my end point of my mirror, but I need to find the radius of where my pivot point is because I'm gonna put it here so I can draw this little line here. Okay, so I found my pivot point, it's there. I drilled that in, put it on, and now I'm just checking to make sure that my bit will in fact go on the outside of the edges and line up with my point there in the middle, and same with the side. Make sure that it is lined up, and it is, and now we are ready to go. Okay, so we're moving on to making our lines of where our things are going. So I put my mirror on here just to kind of gauge where I'm at. I know I'm going 4.5 in, and I know I'm going 4.5 in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this mirror so that I can draw my line straight on it. So I'm going to measure out 4.5 here, 4.5 here, get my line, drawing it straight so that I know where my pivot point is going to be for my inside cut for the mirror. On here, and I'm going to shorten the router to end like where this is. So I'm going to line my blade up to the router, that it just lines up right to that line. So I'm going to do that on both sides and cut both. Okay, so I finished cutting this out, and the reason why I made a circle here is because I didn't want to waste this piece. So I knew that I'm going to be cutting the rest of this out because this is where the mirror is going to go, but I wanted to save this scrap because P.S. this is going to be another project at some point. So there is no need to waste this gorgeous piece of plywood that I'm going to do another project with. So I'm going to save both sides. Stay tuned to see what that turns into. All right, you guessed it. I'm going to do the same thing I did on this side to this side over here. So I'm gonna go back and get the same measurement of like this little guy, so he's already there. I'm gonna put my router back in there, shorten it up till it meets. Okay, so it's my first time using a circular saw, and I'm doing a plunge cut. Didn't know what that was, but now I do. The Hubs has coached me on what I need to do here, so it's a little scary, but I'm going to do it. because that's just what you do. You face your fears. So we're going for it. Here we go. Okay, so here we are, and it's lovely. Some fixes here, some sanding, but you guys can see where we're going with this situation. Okay, so let me show you how it's turning out and give you a little sneak peek of what this is looking like. Okay, so I put the mirror underneath there so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing. And then I'm going to be putting these 1/2-inch rounds, this trim, up here. I'm going to be the color of plywood. Underneath here, I'm painting this pink, and I'm leaving these the color of plywood. And then I'm going to paint this pink because it's just off. It doesn't fit the right color, but I'm going to cut it down a little bit. So you're going to get this. It's going to be kind of the situation. So it's getting late, and I'm going to call it quits for today. But the last thing I'm going to do before I finish is just sand all the edges out and make it smooth for tomorrow. It'll be like a brand new thing. Can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. And we're back at it again today, finishing up this mirror. So good. Let me show you what it looks like currently. Tootsie, do you like that mirror? Nope. Okay, anyways, this is what the mirror looks like. It's turning out so good. If you guys can see the vision of what I'm getting at here. So I'm really wanting to do the 1/2-inch rounds here. We're going to be painting underneath here today, adding the trim around the corners here, and then calling it a day. So stay tuned for today's DIY because it's going to be lots of fun. So what I'm doing now is I am painting this part pink because I want there just to be a little bit of pink in between the 1/2 rounds. So I measured 11 inches down. So I went 11 inches and I put a mark here and a mark here so that I know where my pink is going to start and end. Now I'm moving on to paint this guy pink. Okay, so let's talk about Dura Flex for a second. It's kind of like the secret weapon of how you get the arched look. If it looks like wood and it's arched, it most likely is something called Dura Flex. And it's basically a piece of trim that is flexible. So it's meant to look like wood, but once it's painted, you cannot tell the difference. And if you're looking to do a DIY project with arches, this is gonna be a great tool. I got mine on Amazon. It was like 10 bucks. Perfect for a DIY project. I have painted mine. So once it's painted, it'll look like wood, but it's gonna flex and it's gonna give me the arches that I'm looking for. So, okay, so I am now gonna cut this up. This is the little squares that are gonna separate the 1/2 rounds from the other pieces. So I'm gonna cut these at 4.5 inches because that's the width of our mirror. Okay, so now that I've cut all my transition pieces, I can now measure for my 1/2 rounds to have the perfect size so they'll fit right in there. So for me, it was 34.5. And so 34.5, I'm gonna make 10 cuts. So I'll have 10 pieces of. Okay, so I'm in the last couple of steps here. So basically I've got all my 1/2 rounds that have been cut and I'm gonna space them evenly in here so that they are evenly spaced. And then I'm gonna cut my trim, my foam trim, and I'm gonna place my foam trim. So I basically am just gonna be now putting all of them together with a nail gun. Okay, so basically what I'm doing now is I've set this piece here and I've set it in tight here, and I'm just gonna nail this one in, and I'm going to nail this one in so that I can then put all of my 1/2 rounds in to finish it up. Okay, so I've nailed in these 2 pieces on each end. And so now I'm just going to space these correctly to where there's a space in between, and there's gonna be 5 total. All right, well, it's getting dark and I am out of sunlight, which means that I have to finish this up tomorrow. So let me just show you what has happened so far. I've gotten all of these 1/2 rounds in. It's painted pink underneath. So now tomorrow what I'm going to be working on is just adding the flex trim and then filling the holes and adding the veneer to the inside and the outside. And then it'll be done. So stay tuned for tomorrow. Okay, today's a new day to finish this mirror. It's really happening. So do you guys want to see what it looks like? Because it was a little bit dark last night. There it is. Oh my goodness. It's so cute, isn't it? Okay, so the pink, I didn't even get to really see this in the light. The pink is perfect. I used a pale pink. I used Sherwin-Williams Romance. So cute. Perfect. Exactly what I was looking for. So now today, all I'm going to be doing is putting that trim on, that flex trim, which I painted also last night. So I'll show you that in a minute. But the only things left to do today are filling all the holes, adding the flex trim, and then putting a veneer on the inside. So do you see how in the inside there it shows through? So I'm gonna be putting a veneer so that it's like a smooth surface. So let me show you the flex trim and how that turned out. Okay, so this is the flex trim painted. So I painted it like that pale pink. I'm probably gonna do a little bit of touch up again today. But what it used to look like. So that's the color difference. So that is going to go on, and we are going to just finish it up today. So I'm going to get started. Okay, so I have my flex trim. I cut off the edge just to get it a really good straight cut because they don't come very straight from the factory. So I got my piece cut, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. So I'm basically going to butt this up to the closest edge here, and I'm going to hit it with a nail gun. So that's going to give me a way that I can then bend it around and continue to nail it there. So, and then I'll just continue to nail it around just to make it more stable. Okay, so I did not cut this correctly. So there's a gap in there. So I'm either going to fill this with a small piece of leftover flex trim and just kind of slide it in there, or I'm gonna fill this with caulk and just make it look beautiful and then paint over it. Stay tuned to see what I do there, but that'll be fixed. So with that is what we're looking at. You guys, it's perfect. It's perfect. It is exactly what I was looking to do, and I'm so happy. It's looking so good. Okay, so now next step is putting the veneer around these sides so that it doesn't look like rough plywood. So I'm going to continue to go around this entire mirror, inside of the mirror as well, so that I don't see in the reflection the mix-matched plywood look. So I want it to look smooth. Okay, so if you've been wondering how I'm going to attach this plastic mirror to that wood, you're looking at it. This is a construction grade material, and it's basically it's a glue that's going to turn into almost like a plastic, and it's by Loctite, and you can get this at Lowe's. And so this is going to adhere. I'm putting it here on the top of the plastic, and then I'm going to set it on. And then on the back side, I'm going to drill a little hole in each one of these corners. And then I'm going to pre-drill it, and then I'm going to use the screw, and I'm going to drill from the back side in just to reinforce it. But once I do that, we will have a finished mirror. This is my last step before I finish up. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this all the way down so that this is what you see. But the problem is you can see a little bit up here. So what I'm going to need to do is paint all of this inside part pink.